This is Chi for Yourself. Now, here's Gio.
Hi, welcome to Chi for Yourself. Great to have you with us wherever you are in the world today. We're here to foster the good Chi and to assist you on your path toward living a genuine life. If you drop the word yoga into a conversation with 5 people, you're likely to get 5 very different reactions. Those can range from completely misinformed hearsay to the assurance of a loyal devotee. Yoga has become a nationwide cultural phenomenon, and if you don't practice yoga, chances are you know someone who does. But what do you know about that mysterious practice called yoga? Our guest today brings a lot of light to the subject. Meagan McCrary is a Los Angeles-based yoga teacher. She works one-on-one with some of the entertainment industry's leading professionals, does workshops and retreats nationally and internationally. She's also a freelance writer and host of her own radio show on Blog Talk Radio, one of the places where you can hear this show. Meagan McCrary is the author of Pick Your Yoga Practice, exploring and understanding different types of yoga. And sorting out and comparing all the different types of yoga, Meagan, is a pretty tall task. The book does a great job of doing that. What is it that made you want to write this particular book at this time?
You know, I was actually in my master's program, so this book came out as my thesis, and the idea was I had been immersed in this particular style of yoga called Anusara yoga, and I was teaching Anusara yoga, and I knew that, and I was only studying that, but here I was, a part of this larger phenomenon that's happening in yoga, and there's so many teachers and so many styles, and I didn't feel like I knew enough about the larger picture. And then the other thing is, the way I felt about Anusara, that they're so different. The way I felt about Anusara was like coming home. So I wanted to allow other people that same experience. So it may not be the style I chose. I want you to find a style that feels like coming home. And then, if you go to one and you don't like it, I don't want you to write yoga off altogether either. I want people to understand that there's more styles and more opportunities and more experiences. So I just really want more people involved in yoga.
Yeah. Well, in the book, you take a close look at some of the more prominent forms in the yoga discipline, though you touch on many other forms too. When you sorted them all out, did you consider numbers of people practicing each one or the benefits each offered? What kind of measuring stick did you use?
It was it was a continual organic process. So, and the landscape of yoga is always changing in the United States. Systems are falling off, new systems are coming. So I wanted to do the most prominent. I wanted to make sure they've been around for at least a decade, except some of the ones the best of the rest are obviously a little sooner. I looked at numbers, and I also looked at the history of the United States in history of yoga, in the United States. So while I'm in LA, Apollo yoga is not that big out here. It's bigger back east, but it also was a very large part of what had happened to yoga throughout the history of the last 30 years or so. So I wanted to include some traditional, some really popular, so you could have a full picture.
Okay, fair enough. When you're doing your practice, I know you feel that attitude is so very important. What kind of an attitude does one take into the start of a yoga practice?
Well, I'm always talking to my students, and as yoga practitioners, the beginner's mind is the attitude we're trying to embody. In Buddhism, it's the concept of Shoshin, as you might know. So we always want, no matter how long you've been practicing or how much you think you know, you want to come empty. You want to come ready to learn something. You want to step into your down dog as if it's the first time, even though it's probably the 2010th time. Like, how do you bring that freshness and that sense of wonder and investigation and exploration into your practice every time you step onto the mat? And then with an open attitude, you're not contracted. You don't place those expectations on yourself. You don't belittle yourself. You don't, I can't do this, now I feel bad. No, if you have an open attitude, you're open to whatever comes, whether your body's on board or not, and you accept that.
And I take it gratitude is also a very important part of your practice? Yeah. Yes.
I end class every time saying, before Namaste, I said gratitude for this gift of embodiment, because we look at this physical form as such a gift, and the breath is such a gift. We don't even have to do anything for it. And how do we access gratitude for that? And how do we access gratitude in our bodies through the breath? Gratitude is, I think, the foundation to all sorts of healthy mind, body living.
Mm-hmm. And it would seem natural to complement your practice with a good diet. And now that we're respecting the temple that is our body, what kind of fuel do we put into it?
There's all sorts of, there's a lot of different beliefs. There's a lot of yogis that are vegetarian. There's a lot of non-vegetarian yogis. It just depends what sort of a system you ascribe to. For the most part, people want to eat what we call sattvic food, so middle of the road, not nothing that's going to bring you really high up, like caffeine or spices and sugar and all that, and nothing that's going to make you really lethargic, like potatoes. So you try to eat sort of middle of the road, and balance. Yoga's all about balance. So while I believe it's okay to have a cookie every now and then, it's about balance. You don't want 10 cookies.
Mm-hmm. And of course, it's not necessary to be vegan or even vegetarian, but I guess it wouldn't hurt.
No, yeah. It just all depends. So because there's different philosophies, and if you study a very strict classical yoga dual philosophy, they really take the vegetarian diet seriously, and the ahimsa, non-harming aspect. Well, if you're a Tantra yogi, Tantra's, 5,000 years ago, they actually ate human flesh, so they don't see a problem with eating animal products because everything's consciousness. So they're eating animal products, they think that they're just ingesting more consciousness. So it's all, and you can take it as far as you want to go. And if a vegetarian diet, if you feel better and healthy on a vegetarian diet, it's all about how you feel, recognizing you are eating this, or do you feel better eating this? Do you feel worse when you've had that? So yoga is going to put us in touch with our body so we can begin to make the healthiest, highest decisions for ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Well, how would you describe your own practice? What does your session look like for yourself?
For myself, well, let's see. So my yoga has changed throughout the years. I love taking a class. I love being in front of a teacher, and I really like the flow classes. My home practice is about, I get up in the morning, I do 5 to 10 sun salutations, and then I have a seated practice, and I sit for about 5 minutes. I do a little alternate nostril breathing, and then a 5-minute meditation. And then, everything yoga, like I'm constantly reading yoga books and contemplating. I consider my journaling a yoga practice. So I believe that if you're doing anything with awareness and with the thought of like self-growth and you're present, you can really, everything's a yoga practice.
Mm-hmm. Well, obviously, you're not just a practitioner of yoga and teacher; you're a student too. Has your practice and has your practice and all that you've learned had an effect on your outlook and way of dealing off the mat as well?
Oh yes. Well, now I've been practicing and teaching for practicing for over a decade, almost teaching. So it's hard for me to separate the two. It's like everything I've learned. Yoga philosophy, everything I've learned about myself on the mat, everything I've learned how to calm my mind down with the breath, how to accept myself as a big part of yoga, that is all played out in my life. Like I tell my students, it's practice. So whatever comes up in here, it's a safe place to practice the way you want to be out there.
I want to talk about older folks for just a minute. I'm thinking now of seniors who could really benefit from an exercise program, even those who may have had a physical setback. Is there a particular yoga style that would be safe for them?
Yes, I really enjoy, there's a couple of different approaches you can take. A more gentle approach where you're going to get more relaxation and meditation and deep, we call yoga nidra, so really deep relaxation. It's an integral yoga system. Our Sivananda yoga, some of the yogas that have been around for a long time, they were actually set up by gurus in the 70s. They came and set up ashrams here. Those styles tend to lean more toward more senior type folks. And then dealing with injuries and things, if you want to go toward a more physical practice, I think Iyengar yoga, where they use props, where the teachers are very skilled at modifying the poses for your range of motion. There's even Iyengar senior classes, Iyengar chair yoga classes. I think you're going to find the most benefit in your body going to like an Iyengar class, which focuses on alignment and therapeutics.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And of course there's no real stress as far as impact or anything that might cause injury. I mean, other than knowing your own ability to stretch and to move. I mean, it's not like a class where someone would be striding or there'd be any pounding. I mean, it's basically safe for older people, isn't it?
Yes, especially. It's low impact.
Yeah.
We're using our body, and we're using our breath, and we're creating heat, and it brings more fluid to the joints and subtlety to the body, so that when you go to move, it is safer. Yes, very low impact.
Yeah.
Very safe. And you know what I tell people all the time? They're afraid to come do. I'm not flexible. That's more where the really flexible young girls, they're more likely to hurt themselves in the long run because they need to pull in. They need more alignment and things. You really, if you're unflexible, you're safe to come on in.
I hear people, and people will say to me, yoga, well, that's a religious thing, and I don't practice, that particular religion. Well, what is the tie, if there is any, or the connection to religion historically that yoga has?
Well, yoga came basically out of the same text that Hinduism, actually Jainism, Buddhism. They were all there was this really fertile period on what is now India, the Indian subcontinent, where all of these ideas, the Upanishads, the Vedas, all these texts came out, and there was all of these ideas and these ways of looking at the world, and they sort of began to split. So yoga became one, a school of thought with many schools of thought within it. Buddhism, Jainism, Hinduism. But yoga itself is not tied to one particular religion, unless you go into a style that is very Advaita Vedanta or like the philosophy. But what's great here in the States is there's so many variations that you can even find a yoga that leaves every single spiritual component out of the class or the experience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's okay to have that historical connection, but there's no worry about having to actually practice something that is religious in yoga. Yeah.
You know what's great is it's a philosophy. So in my teacher trainings, I've even had Mormon women and whatever you're learning, you can actually take and apply it and interpret to your own religion if you so chose to. And now there's Christian yoga and things like that. So it's and if you don't want spiritual, you can leave it. You can take your yoga as far as you want. If you want to ignore the spiritual aspect, you're more than welcome to and get the benefits of the mind-body connection, the movement.
Yeah. Well, as yoga becomes bigger and bigger business, it means good business for you, but I'm wondering if it can reach a point where it's too affected by commerce and we kind of lose the meaning of it all.
You know what, and that's always been a concern. And when I interviewed some very senior teachers of the Iyengar and the Integral System, Tim Miller. That was the last question I pretty much asked everybody, is how do you feel about it? And generally across the board, it's great. The expansion and the commercialization, while it may dilute, some of the practices, the tradition and the practice is still there. So what we think is like this, now we just have a bigger net that you cast out. And then you're going to catch more people, and then maybe one or two of those people are going to want to dive deeper into the more traditional, yoga practices and find out more for themselves. Mm-hmm. And that's the neat thing about yoga is you have to come to it on your own. You can't force it. Like, you have to want to go deeper. And when that comes calling, there's always places you can go to find that.
Mm-hmm. Well, we see in the book, obviously, how to find or what we need to know about the various yoga practices. What about individual yoga teachers? What's a good way of approaching your practice as far as what you would like to have from a teacher?
That's such an important question. I really believe that as much as a style, you need to find the right teacher for you. As far as when you go around looking, you have to consider your needs. So if you're somebody who, wants to sweat and lose weight and wants to sort of be drilled through a practice, you're going to be able to tell by the words and the descriptions they use in their bio. And if they say they're a breast-centered teacher, or let's say you're interested in biomechanics, or you have an injury, or you're more interested in how the bones and the things line up. You want to look for a teacher that has some sort of alignment or therapeutic background in their bio. But then it all comes when you're in front of the teacher. Do you feel a connection? Do you feel seen? Do you feel respected? Do you feel safe? These are all things that you should be asking yourself through class. And if you connect to the teacher, it's a big deal, because when you connect to the teacher, you want to come back. And coming back to the same class, same day of the week, really builds your practice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, yoga, when you watch it, it seems like such a serious discipline, but you bring a humor to it as well. How do you bring humor into your class?
Well, I think I'm funny, so
okay.
that helps. So it really has a lot to do with the style. So I was trained in a style called Anusara yoga, which really addressed and sort of gleaned out of us our personality. Like if we went into a yoga type teacher voice, we were stopped and said, where's Meagan's voice? So we were really encouraged to be who we are, to bring in what we know, to tell our stories, and I just found myself, as I got more and more confident, that I was bringing in just cracking little jokes, like make sure, in the end it's just yoga. Like I just want, it's yoga, people. It's not that serious. Lighten up. Be more equal with yourself. Humor helps.
That's good. You also lead a group, a retreat to Mexico. I've spent some time along the Yucatan. Really enjoyed it. You plan?
Actually, I'm leaving Saturday to take a group of 10 women down to Tulum.
Uh-huh.
And I love the Yucatan. I think it's one of the most magical places.
Mm. What do the people in your class expect when they go on one of these trips? Obviously, it's a beautiful setting. Does your approach change at all, or do you do basically the same things? How does that work?
Well, it changes a little bit, because now I have a week with these women. Mm-hmm. So the classes will build on each other, and for this one in particular, it's after New Year's. So the first discussions and the journaling and the theming of the first few days will be letting go. Mm-hmm. Then we'll move into transition. Then we'll move into manifestation intention for the new year. So, there's a little more personal writing. There's a little more workshop poses. So I have one day we're just doing headstand, shoulder stand. Then things will be grounded, more restorative, more meditation. So an opportunity to deepen your yoga practice in an immersed environment. And it's also a really neat opportunity for me to take people on a deeper journey into themselves.
Mm-hmm. Do you see yoga becoming even bigger in the U.S. now? I see things like Lululemon and companies like that which are taking part in it. It seems it can only...
It seems that's the theme to me as well. And I feel as though there's a lot of yoga hybrids coming on right now, and I mean like yoga hop or Pilates or kickboxing yoga. More people are being interested in yoga concepts, and one of the most important being the breath. I think people will see what happens. The industry will keep going through the economic downturn.
Mm-hmm.
It seems here to say.
Yeah. As a last question, I want to ask you to give the reader one final point or suggestion to keep in mind, especially if he or she is about to try yoga for the first time.
I say be easeful with yourself. The fact that you let yourself feel 100% great about getting to your first yoga class, about getting to any yoga class you get to. Whatever takes place on the mat, it has to be with acceptance. Mm-hmm. And you just honor it. So today, I was telling my class, you don't have to take it all in. You don't have to do every single pose. You don't have to understand every single instruction. Like, what you get for today is what you're meant to get. So maybe you sit this pose out. If your body got what it needs to get, so you take a break. So be easeful with yourself and really congratulate yourself for getting there.
Right. The book is Pick Your Yoga Practice, Exploring and Understanding Different Types of Yoga from Meagan McCrary. Your website is meaganmccrary.com. We can find out more about the book and the trips too, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's
books, classes, my blog, where you can find me on the web. Yeah, I'm having tons of offerings, workshops coming up. So yeah, please visit me.
All right. Well, Meagan, thanks for bringing so much clarity to yoga practice and for writing such an easy to navigate book, which it really is. I hope you come back again and tell us what you're up to and how the trip went.
Okay. Thanks so much, John.
Thanks very much again, Meagan. Take care. Have a great day.
Okay. You as well.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Meagan McCrary. We will link to Meagan's website at chiefforyourself.com and give you more information there too. And that's you'll find when you visit the chiefforyourself.com homepage, which we also call the start page. And by the way, if you hear the interview from the website, you'll want to know that most of the recent first run interviews are streamed as a Google Plus Hangout. Now, we've had some problems with today's Google Plus situation, so the interview that you're hearing on the website is not a Hangout as such, but we're going to keep working on that to get that back to you so that you can hear these live. And if you visit the Chief for Yourself YouTube video page too, you'll see those videos, the collection of some of the older archive stuff, which you'll have a chance to see. You can find that at youtube.com/GeoHost, GIOHOST, one word. Subscribe while you're there. Why don't you? Speaking of subscription, you may know by now that you can subscribe to the chiefforyourself.com blog, which we call Genulines. And that way you'll always know who's going to be on the program and when. On the web page, there's a small box there. You can leave an email address. We'll do the rest. And I'm happy to say, too, that Chief for Yourself podcast episodes are now available on iHeartRadio, too. So that's also a good thing. Of course, you'll continue to find the show at blogtalkradio.com and a number of other hosting sites, too. So that's going to do it for today. I want to thank you so much for being here and for following Chief for Yourself. Be well, and I'll talk to you soon.